Hello, everybody. Welcome to my new weekly review. So let's start on my first trade, Euro USD. This was the first one, a loss, and Euro GBP was also a loss, minus 1%. So I took two trades that week. This was in total minus 1.9%. So I will go over the first trade, Euro USD. So I will take the weekly, daily, 4 hour. So the daily, what can you see on the daily? On the daily, we have a 3 out of 4 for long. So what can we see on the daily? We have an inverse head and shoulders plus a bullish M big pattern. So you had here your shoulder 1, your head, then here your shoulder 2, and within that you have that bullish M. So that's nice to see that we have here also this nice supply and demand zone here holding the price up. So it's a very nice supply and demand zone. So I could take a trade till the upside till this selling zone, which we after that trade or that loss did, and then we went back to the downside. So if I go over the weekly, what can you see on the weekly? The weekly for me, the trend is still bullish. You had here your low, high, low, new high. For me, this is one leg because we didn't close above here, above that wick here. So for me, that's one impulse. So the trend is still bullish. The candle close was against us. We are at this weekly flip completion actually. So the trend was here bearish. Um, so this was against us. The flip, you could say it's against you because you had here your flip completion. I was just counting here from this low till this high, the fibs. This for me was just false breaks of these lows. You can see this is a clear support region. So for me, this is one low. This is actually a false break of that. So the trend was still bullish. So actually you could count this also against you or for you. It's just a 2 out of 4 because you had here your clear weekly supply demand zone acting as resistance, resistance, support, resistance, here support again. Then you have for sure 2 out of 4. So we could go to the upside. So then I will go to the 4 hours. So the daily was clear. The 4 hour, what could we see after we received that daily touch, daily zone of interest touch? We could look for a pattern and receive that in the form of a shoulder 1, head, shoulder 2, and then here your first leg, second leg, third leg. We had the close above this previous lower high. So it's inverted shoulders with a break plus that smaller bullish M. We could take the trade here. And you could see the price was holding here nice as support. We had also a clear impulse here, some change in momentum. And then we could receive here the correction. We received that, but then we went to the downside and the trade took us out. And then after this daily new liquidity, new action touch, we received the liquidity for going to that daily selling zone where we had our flip completion. So it was a good trade for me. So this was a loss. Then Euro GBP for me, actually it's trading error. For some people, it will be a good trade. For me, if I go over the trade, because I was trading a pullback trade to the upside. It was an inverted head and shoulders. Actually, if I open the daily, I will go daily, weekly, 4 hour. So if I go over the daily, what can you see on the daily? The daily for me was bearish because you had here your low, your high, your new low. So the daily was bearish. This is actually also a weekly, your weekly fib or weekly trend. And yeah, I saw this possible bullish M's playing out, the smaller bullish M's here. And what I saw was, if I looked only at this leg here, because we had there multiple bullish M's, you could see this was your previous high, low, new high. We broke it here a little bit. We made here shoulder 1, had shoulder 2 here. We respected the shoulder 1 zone, went to a downside. Then if you only look at that leg, so I can see this was clear bullish, and this was just also correction because this was impulse, correction, then impulse. So we received that impulse and we could trade that pullback trade because if we have a first time break of a trend, if I only look at this leg, because I was just looking at this leg, then we can trade the pullback for that head and shoulders or previous structure support that can become resistance. So when I trade these pullback trades, I don't want to take scale-ins because I didn't test it, and this was a scale-in here. So what we saw was we had here also that bullish M here. Some people see it as one leg. I don't see that because I see this as 1, 2, 3, 4, and we had a break of that. So we trade a pullback trade. So when we trade the pullback trade, we want to trade it with a buying zone. And this was a clear buying zone acting as support, resistance, support, support. So it's a clear supply and demand zone holding very nicely. So it was a clear trade for me. But yeah, the thing was we were gaming very impulsive. This could be your correction and the shoulder 1 here, which I drew here, this shoulder 1. Then this could be your head, shoulder 2. This could play potentially against you because we became very impulsive. This could be your small correction, and then we could go to the downside. So that was it. And I took the trade because I was talking in my head. I had here slow price action to the downside, and also I didn't see that scenario a lot of times, so that's why. So if I go over the weekly, what can you see? We had a 2 out of 4. The trend for me was bullish because I saw this as your previous lower high, lower low. We broke it here with a new high. For me, this was one impulse. What you can also see is this is also correction impulse. So this selling zone that was tapped could be a trigger for going to the downside more. So actually, you could see this also with here a support weeks, a clear supply and demand, so holding the price down with that candle close that could play against you. So we had just a 2 out of 4, the trend and a fib from this low till this high for you. If you take the fib from this high till this low, then it would be against you. But I was still looking for the long because the daily was looking clear. But after reviewing it, I understand that this is a major reason that we went to the downside because of this big selling zone here and that candle close that wanted to push the price to the downside with that impulse, and here is more corrective nature went it to the downside. So I expect that price to go to that weekly lows actually. So the daily was clear. We had there pullback trades that we didn't want to take because we don't trade scalings on pullback trades. So on the 4 hour, what could you see? This could be our first trade, the diesel, which would be a good one because we didn't tap the shoulder 1 region here of that daily. And then this would be a break even. So we had it, we must be in that trade, but I was sleeping the time, so I will go over the trade in the missed trades. So then I saw that first leg, second leg, third leg, fourth leg. Here I was still sleeping, so I took it here. And what I saw that was convincing me that the trade could possibly play out is because we had here an impulse and this was a more corrective nature. So for me, this was an indication that the price maybe wanted to go to the upside after here having that impulse. Then we received here the diesel, so the support, and then here again impulse correction. So for me, this was a clear indication that we could go back to the upside. So this was the thing I was waiting for. But yeah, I was talking myself in the trade, and you can see it didn't play out because we had here that impulse that was still in play, and this could be also potentially a correction, and then we touch that shoulder 1 and we went to the downside. So This was actually a trading error because I don't trade scale in some pullback trades. So then the missed trades, um, it were actually four, I guess. Yeah, your GBP, and then here also, yeah, this was GBP cat. This one needed to be changed, GBP cat. So Euro GBP, this was then the diesel trade. I went over it, so I was sleeping back then. I couldn't take this trade, so this could be a break-even trade. Then Euro GBP or Euro GPY. Um, this could be a 2.5% trade on my new TP strategy or 0.80%. So I will go over it, the daily, the weekly, and the 4 hour. So on the daily, what could you see? This trade I took on demo because I wasn't triggered on my 100K account, my 200K account. So what could we see? We had here a low, a high, we had a break. We could trade a pullback trade because we had enough space till at shoulder one. Here the support, potential resistance here. We had still enough space because this is just a flat wall, so this could be our major correction. The only thing we needed to be careful for was this shoulder one region on that weekly. Shoulder one had shoulder two, which we tapped here, and the sellers kicking in. So what could we see on a daily further? This could be our shoulder one, head, shoulder two, impulse, correction, impulse. So this was the thing I saw. What I saw was we had here the clear impulse. We had a small correction. Then we had here an impulse. And then we changed from momentum because this was more impulsiver than this leg here. This just made in 2 days. This in one, two, three, four, five, six. Here in one, two. And then we had after that impulse, that correction with a flip completion here. And then we made that new impulse here with that nice daily bullish candle. So why I was taking this trade was also because we closed above this daily buying zone. As you can see, this was clear resistance, support, resistance, and here acting as support. That's why we went to the upside. So if I go over the weekly, we had a 3 out of 4. This was also looking good. The weekly here, 3 out of 4. Because the trend was still bullish for me, this was your last higher low wick, your higher high wick. So this was for me still bullish. The trend is bullish. Candle close was against you. This red candle here, this one is against you. It's really massive red. So this was against you. Then the fib from this low till this high. This low till this high still. This is just a false break potentially. Fake out. Fake out, sorry, not a false break. So this was still for you, 2 out of 4. And then the supply and demand zone here, this clear support region, which was holding. This was a false break of this support region here. So actually the price went up when we touched that till that shoulder one had shoulder two here. So we had 3 out of 4. Why we wanted to go to the upside is also we had here an impulse, and then we can receive a correction to that shoulder one, and then we can receive again an impulse. So this was a trade. And on the 4 hour, what could you see? There was some nice thing to see about the 4 hour. This was a clear low here. This was a new high, and we had a clear impulse, and this was all correction. If we look more closer, you can see with here impulse, correction. Here it was still an impulse. It was a little bit more, not anymore so aggressive, but it was still an impulse. And then we changed from momentum because for me, when we had this impulse, we changed from momentum. And this was also a clear high, low, new high. So I was looking to take that shoulder one in here, head shoulder two, we didn't tap it, and then we had that bullish M, nice, the 4 hour candle close, really impulsive. I wanted to take I wanted to take the limit on a previous structure IC. one pip to the upside and stop loss under this wicks from that higher low. And yeah, the trade just didn't tap my 100k account, 200k, and we went to the upside. It only triggered my demo account, so this was it sucked that it wasn't tapping it. So yeah, it could happen. Maybe I can do next time 1.5 pips. So yeah, this could be a 2.5% trade. Then GBP cat. GBP cat could be a 4 hour minus 27 FIP completion trade. I didn't took it because yeah, I find the minus 27 FIP completion really big because it was also a daily lag, which gave me doubt. So I need to backtest these scenarios more. I took this on demo. So if I go on the daily, what can you see on the daily? We had a clear bearish W. So we had here a first leg, second leg, third leg, fourth leg. Fourth leg was bigger for rectifier, and you can see we had here IC in the FIP level. So this was my whole daily zone, aligning with this clear resistance support here. So if you drew your zone like this, you could see it's clear supply and demand zone here holding the price potentially down. So if I go over the weekly, what can you see? We had a 3 out of 4. So the trend is bearish because this was your low, new high, new low. So for me, the trend is changed, bearish. So this is for you. Then your candle close is not for you, not against you. It's yeah, doji candle. So for me, it's yeah, not that clear. Fib from this low, a high to this low is for you. And then the supply and demand on here, this resistance, support, resistance, potential resistance is working for you. So we had a 3 out of 4 to go for that short. So then I went to the 4 hour. What could you see on the 4 hour? I took my fib from this low here to this high. And you had here minus 27 fib completion. You had here your impulse, corrective nature. Then here again, impulse. You tapped it here. You could go break even. And you could see that this trade didn't play out because we had here again that impulse correction. Here again, that impulse. So this was a break-even trade. We could take this trade because it was a fib completion, but I saw on the daily chart here that my fib was from this low to this high, and I didn't backtest it enough to see this as a valid fib completion because it's a daily lag in that 4 hour fib completion. So it's a daily fib completion actually. So I need to backtest this more bigger 4 hour fib completions. So I will see. That's why I didn't took it, and I took it just on demo, so it was a break even. Um, then CHF GPY, I didn't took it because it was NFP, so I wasn't really looking anymore at this trade. And also we tapped the head and shoulders high, so normally I don't trade that. So this was a conversation I had there. So if I go over the daily, what can you see on the daily? You can see we had here a big shoulder one, had potential shoulder two. We didn't play out. We went to the upside, but then we had still that bigger bearish W that could play out. And what we had there was that fake out because we had a candle close above these highs, daily highs, and we are still not closing above this daily high wicks. So it's a potential fake out. And you can see we took some new liquidity or new action of that daily highs here. So then we received a daily candle to the downside, as you can see. And yeah, I wasn't looking anymore because it was NFP, but I could still trade because it was later in the day. It was around 18 o'clock. So actually NFP was over, but yeah, I was still counting it with me. And you can see you could potentially trade that shoulder one here, had then we tapped the 4 hour lows, and we could still trade it because I backtested these kind of scenarios without a break And you could see it tapped the shoulder one, and we going to the downside. So this trade can play out because we tapped the daily highs, also selling zone, weekly liquidity highs were taken here. So two times we tapped the daily high wicks here, daily high wicks also from that, weekly highs, and then we can go to the downside. So this could be a potential trade that can play out, high chance to, so we could take it actually. So yeah, so this was my weekly review. I hope you liked it and see you next week. Bye.